Alright, so, we're going to be talking about Godzilla War for Humanity. This was a comic that I got, for myself, and I've been trying to pick up the trades for, the Godzilla, this new wave of Godzilla IDW. And I gotta say, I've been really enjoying it. The thing with IDW is that trades come out really slow. I did do a review of the first issue of Godzilla Skate or Die, but I was like, you know what, I'll just wait for trade. So that'll probably be that and Godzilla Sons of Giants, which is the sequel to Here There Be Dragons. And yeah, this whole era of Godzilla, this new IDW era of Godzilla, has been really awesome. I've really been enjoying this take on, they're doing new and weird things that they wouldn't be able to do from the first wave, probably because Toho's a little more laxed with them. Like, it's very clear Toho has had a more laxed kind of feel for them, like, or given them loose boundaries. Hell, they're letting them make new monsters. Between this comic and the upcoming Mothra comic, it's very clear and very obvious that the comics have been given a little less guidelines. The guidelines have been kind of loosened a bit. Anyway, so let's talk about this comic. Now this comic is written by Andrew MacLean, who is the creator of Headlopper, and artwork by Jake Smith. The comic, first, right out the gate, this book is straight up Showa, and I'll explain in a bit. So basically, let's talk about the story first, and then I'll talk about why this feels like a straight up Showa-era film. Is that the story basically takes place with this character named Yuko, who grew up in a very abusive with her very abusive mother, and that'll come into play in a minute. I'll get to that. But after her and her friend saw Godzilla basically save them from Hedorah as a child, she's basically been going around the world trying to prove that Godzilla is a good monster, is like a protector of the human race, whereas she's had a lot of detractors. It's kind of basically her whole tour of like trying to show that the world needs Godzilla. It's kind of put a detriment to her relationship with her daughter, who is left usually with her still asshole of a mother. And from there, she has to team up with a rival of hers in order to stop these new kaiju attacks from several monsters, and it's all being orchestrated by a completely new monster, Zoospora, the big motherfucker right here, who is basically mind-controlling monsters, and now Yuko has to get Godzilla to protect humanity, and that even means like crossing a line of like kidnapping Minya to get Godzilla's help. What I really like about this comic, like I said, is that this comic straight up feels like a Showa era book. This is a straight up like Showa, like how like the monster designs, the characters themselves, the dialogue feels very Showa era. Andrew MacLean clearly had a love for like that era of Godzilla, and it's just kind of fun to see that again. Like a lot of the Godzilla comics from IDW, while they're taking new kind of like directions, a lot of them do feel like they're still trying to keep that kind of serious tone with Godzilla. And trust me, we all love a serious Godzilla. I mean, that's what won him an Oscar, for God's sakes. The big thing is that sometimes it's just nice to have a fun kind of story. But even as a fun story, it deals with a lot of dramatic stuff. Obviously, like parental trauma and other things. The story itself does get really ridiculous at points, but again, it really plays into that feel of this is basically like a script for an unmade Showa era movie, and I can't help but be like, that's kind of what MacLean was going for. That really does feel like what Andrew MacLean was going for. The fights in here are really awesome. I really like also the use that, while a lot of the Godzilla comics, and again, I'm not trying to knock other Godzilla comics, let me be clear, a lot of Godzilla comics, whenever they try to use them, writers want to use like Ghidorah and Mechagodzilla and the big ones, the really big guns. In here, this one is just a showcase of every monster in here is a Showa-era monster. So you have Gorosaurus, you have Manda, you have Anguirus, you have Rodan and Mothra. And it's really fun because I haven't seen anyone use Gorosaurus a Gorosaurus and Manda in a lot of these comics. I mean, there was that Godzilla versus comic with Manda, but really, Godzilla does it like it's just fun to see these lesser monsters get used. Yes, they are minions of Zoospora, but it's just still fun to see Godzilla like fighting them. Let's talk a bit about Zoospora himself. Zoospora is basically like if you fused Hedorah and Biollante together. He's a actively malicious kaiju who's using like a kind of like toxin to manipulate and mind control the other monsters. And his whole goal is to wipe out humanity. He's like a mold trying to cure the humanity, which is like a bacteria. And it's also funny because like they run into a being that can commune with kaijus, this blob, and I'm like, you didn't think that was part of Zoospora? It looks fungusy, it's intelligent, and knows a lot about Zoospora. And then they come back to this monster, which is just this head in the wall, and no one gives any, like, fucks about it. Like, oh my god, they have this quick moment of, holy shit, that's weird. Anyway, that's what it is. Let me show you this image real quick of this thing they find. I just have to, like, showcase just to convey how weird this shit is. I swear it's worth it. Yeah. That thing. They just find it sticking its head, like it's just a head in the wall, and it says it can commune with kaiju, and everyone just takes its word for it. Yeah, no one goes, hey, this thing looks a lot like Zoospora is a small thing, maybe it's connected to Zoospora, and then it turns out it is Zoospora. Again, this is very, like, Showa-era level of thinking. That goes back to it. But it's really cool to see, like, a lot of these writers getting the green light to create, new kaiju. We didn't really get it. We did have that monster recently in Godzilla Rivals in the Space Godzilla one-shot, written by Matt Frank, and before that was the Trilopods from Godzilla Save the Earth. Now we have this Zoospora and a new monster that's going to fight Mothra called Antra. And I gotta be honest, it's a giant ant. We're calling it Antra. We can do better, guys, on naming. This is why Anyway, but it is cool that, Toho is being more lax with allowing them to create kaiju. Although I don't know the legality of who owns what. Does IDW own the original monsters, or do they immediately go to Toho because they're dealing with a Toho book? It's still licensed under them. I really don't know the legality of it. If someone knows, please let me know in the comments below. Also, another side note, I love when they use Mogera. They're wearing, like, when they use these, like, combat suits that look exactly like Jet Jaguar. It's funny. Again, Andrew McLean clearly has a love for Showa-era stuff. I also really like how in the book they do talk about family trauma, and while we don't really see the grandmother a lot, you see a lot of her effects on the family. And I do like at the end where they're just like, where Yuko is just like, fuck her, like, fuck my mom. She did nothing but, traumatize me and damage my relationship with my daughter. And they don't, and it's surprising because it's not like, oh, I love you, Mom. I realize that that you were emotionally distant because reasons. No, it's like, fuck her. She's a horrible person, and they even like do that at the end. It's just kind of nice to see like this comic do something in most stories where it's like, no, you're a piece of shit. I don't care if you're my parent. You're a piece of shit human being who damaged me for the rest of my life. It's just kind of nice to, and I wish more comics would do that, rather than try to, like, fix relationships and be like, oh, it's okay, just love your mom, they're still family, it's okay, they're still family, everything is fine. No, it's not fine. It's not fine. It'll never be fine. Don't tell people that they can fix a toxic relationship with their parent when their parent is the one being the toxic fuckhead. Sorry, got a little too real, I'm sorry, but I just want to appreciate that note. Anyway, I highly recommend Godzilla War for Humanity. It's a great love letter to the Showa era. The artwork is fantastic. Yeah, I didn't talk much about the Jake Smith artwork, but I love just how poppy it is and bright, and I love this was the perfect guy to get for a book like this. So yeah, I highly recommend Godzilla War for Humanity. If you want to read like a fun Showa era book and check out all the little references to it and just see something fun and have a heavy story to it, yeah, I highly recommend this comic. But anyway, you guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of Godzilla War for Humanity if you've read it? Did you guys like it, hate it? Comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.